I was speaking to somebody yesterday, and I often talk about, okay, get yourself fit, and then you can kind of do a dedicated 10 weeks training program towards whatever race you're training to. That doesn't matter whether it's 100 miles or whether it's 5K. It obviously depends on your starting point, but then after those dedicated 10 weeks, those concentrated 10 weeks towards that race, then you've got 10 to 14 days. So that's why I kind of say 12 weeks, 3 months approximately, which is 10 weeks plus your 2 weeks taper, yeah? So then within that 10 weeks, really you only need to focus on 10 interval sessions, which are focused on your lactate threshold, which is focused on your speed endurance essentially, and your 10 long runs, which are focused on improving your stamina, your endurance, and together those two nicely feed into some. And I would add into that as well that one of the sessions you want to be doing some strides, you want to be working on your form, you want to be going not necessarily all out sprints, but definitely strides much faster than you're doing your intervals. So with those three things combined, you've got a nice little workout there, but there's only kind of 20 key sessions within those 10 weeks. And if you get 80% of those right, so 16 sessions out of 20, you're in PB shape and you're good to go. But that's all going to be much easier for you if you're already fit. And I'll often say that, and I'll often say, okay, and I'll often kind of go into a little bit of detail, but what do I mean? So I'll give you a perfect example. So I've just come off a period of time when I was just getting over a small injury, and nothing major, but it was just one of those stop and start, and it needed fixing. So I needed to kind of like put the work in, see the physio 3 times a week. A lot of time in the physio room, a lot of time in prehabilitation, a lot of time in the weight room, and that used to really kind of get me down to a certain point. But now I've kind of refocused over the last 5, 6, 7 years in terms of like, okay, now I'm going to be a pro recoverer. I'm not a pro runner, now I'm a pro recoverer. And I got that from a professional cyclist, a really good cyclist, who's actually starting maybe today in the Vuelta a España. Name dropping. So what do I mean by getting fit? So what you want to do is essentially a skeleton version. So start to add structure, skeleton version of what you're about to do. So if you know that you're training for a marathon, and the marathon training, the 10-week dedicated block looks something like first week 12 miles long run, second week 14 miles, third week 60 miles, and gradually going up like that. You don't want week 1 and week 2 to be a shock to the body, which will then kind of put you into fatigue and put you on the back foot. You want to be prepared for those weeks. Same with the interval session. If you know week 1 is 30 times a minute with 60 seconds rest, and you want to be running those at about maybe 400 meters or kind of 300 meters, depending on what pace. It doesn't matter what distance it is. You know you're going to kind of like you'll be hitting your top end speed, and again you're not ready for that, so you're not able to manage 30 times 1 minute, or you're not able to go fast or optimally for that. It's better to be ready for those. You don't want those first couple of weeks to be a shock and therefore be on the back foot, and then you're kind of asking or you're inviting in injury and illness, which you want to avoid like the plague, pardon the pun if there is one there, but you want to avoid those things so that you can have consistency in those 10 weeks, and then a nice kind of like 10 to 14 day taper, freshen up the legs, good to go. So I would do a skeleton version of that, and that would last, for me, it doesn't need to last more than 6 weeks, but you need to be at a point where you can comfortably run 12, 14 miles on a long run, and you can kind of run towards the paces that are suggested within, or the efforts that are suggested within the dedicated 10 weeks. Same with the interval session. So if I know that week 1 is going to be 30 times a minute, I want to know that I can run 30 minutes quite hard, like split up into intervals. So I want to know that I can do 6 times 5 minute, maybe slower than I'm going to be running for the 10 weeks. I want to know that I can do 20 times a minute plus 2 times 5 minutes, a little bit slower. I want to kind of split that up. I'm basically doing my homework ready for the 10 weeks. And that's all it is. You're doing your homework, you're getting your body ready, you're getting your cardiovascular system, so there's no shocks in those first couple of weeks, so that you're on the back foot, and you want to be moving forward throughout that 10 weeks, and you want to be in that positive feedback loop where, yes, I'm moving forward, I've got this lofty goal in 12 weeks time, But week one, yeah, I've got over it, and I'm looking forward to week two. And you want to be looking forward to these runs. You want to be you don't want to be coming back off the back of an interval session and your body is just completely torn to pieces. You want to be in that mindset where, yeah, you've got an interval session, but if you at the end of that interval session, if there was a gun to your head and you needed to do another couple of reps, it's possible. So you want to be kind of stretching that elastic band, so you can kind of move to that you can get that super compensation, but not snapping the elastic bands. So all of a sudden you're kind of like in pieces, and you're looking for, you're on the back foot. You want to be moving forward within that 10 weeks, so that once you get to that kind of 7-8 week, you feel confident that you could already run the time that you're aiming to run within the race that you're aiming for, but you've got another 3 weeks in order to kind of get that extra, and maybe you surprise yourself. And that's why I would always suggest, also in addition to this, that whatever goal you're aiming for, be ready to surprise yourself. Because if you put that structure together, and if you're hitting those sessions, those interval sessions, those long runs especially, and all the easy runs, all the recovery runs are coming together, that within 12 weeks, there's a lot you can do. Like 3 months, it feels like not a long time. It's a long time when you're focused on something, when you're focused on improving, and every single day you kind of like, your kit's set out the night before, you're eating a little bit better, you're doing something in the weight room, you're getting a bit stronger, your stride length is improving, your speed's improving, your endurance is improving. Together, that's kind of making the long run a little bit faster, that's making you stronger for the intervals. All that collectively coming together makes a really strong runner. And if you can put that consistency together over a period of 10 weeks, you can really shock yourself. And there's even times when I felt I'm really fit, but now I'm going to put some structure in. Like I'm about to put a lot more cycling into my routine. So I've got to the point where I can add a bit more running, but I'm going to put cycling into my routine. And once I add that cycling, I know what happens. Initially, first couple of weeks, it's going to be some soreness, some cycling soreness. So it's kind of will be there when I'm running, but it's not really affecting me too much, but I need to watch it. But what I'm going to get from that cycling, because I'm going to be out for 3, 4, 5 hours at a time, and often in the mountains and kind of with the guys and kind of like, pushing hard uphill, and you're kind of tapping in, not just to kind of easy cycling and improving your aerobic system, but it's also some kind of like zone 3 and zone 4 work, which is great, and it's great fun, and it's all nice to have that, but that's going to improve my stamina. It's going to improve my long run, and it's going to make my long run much more manageable, and it's going to mean that I'm recovering from my long run much faster. Then add to that total volume and that engine, so you're kind of building the engine, then my speed is going to improve. If I'm giving myself enough recovery from the cycling and the long run, my speed is going to improve as well at the same time, because I'm going to have a bigger engine. If I'm focused enough, I've got the biomechanics, which I will, then I'm going to be faster. And once those two things come together, and the cycling, the cross training, again, it's just I can shock myself. So that's a moving target. Whatever it is you're aiming for, don't aim for round numbers, sub 3 hour marathon, sub 4 hour marathon, sub 5 hour. Don't aim for round numbers. Get the most out of your body and absolutely go for it. Go for what you're capable of. Don't be safe. Like running, this is only running, it's not life, yeah? Don't be safe, go for it. Be realistic, but go for it.